somebody's higher self has been contacting you in dreams, in meditation, and it feels like sporadically throughout the day. You feel this person's energy, maybe even feeling their energy, and then they reach out to you. Feeling their energy, and you get some sort of sign or confirmation in the material world that is known very specifically to relate to you and this person, something that could relate to previous interactions, conversations that you had. You may be seeing their name pop up, other significant details that can be that sort of confirmation in the immaterial realms that what you are feeling, what you are processing in terms of this mental awareness, maybe a lot of telepathy going on of like, hey, I feel this person, even though, there's silence between us, we're not physically, with one another in that present moment. For a lot of you, this feels like someone you're dealing with currently. So it's like in between those, one-on-one interactions, there's a lot of activity happening where they're reaching for you. Not just they're thinking about you energetically and you're picking up on that, like energy flows where attention goes. But this is something where the higher self is reaching out to you, that you have captivated this person's attention, not just on an emotional level, not just that they find you like physically attractive or pleasing, but there's something that aligns with this person being some kind of a soulmate for you. And we have a lot of different kinds of soulmates in our lifetime. Not every soulmate that we encounter is like the one, but oftentimes that deep, true love, that higher level love that takes time to find. It takes the process of sifting through karmic connections, karmic relationships with ourself even, in order to rise to the occasion vibrationally and actually to be able to recognize that, to be able to, entertain a connection with something like that, sustain something of that higher level, build with something on that higher level. Like that takes time, that takes work above and beyond what is just ordinarily required within romantic connections of like a mundane variety. And so this definitely could fit into that category of this person's higher self kind of like tapping you on the shoulder with this recognition that like, yeah, there's a soul contract between the two of you. We've got the Shekinah with divine destiny. So there's a sense that, and nothing is guaranteed. People have free will here on the earth plane. So just because there is this kind of call to action doesn't mean that both people are going to be moving at the same pace and, in a unanimous direction to make that happen. But this is something that is signaling to you to kind of provide, it feels like, confirmations for you that this is a unique connection, this is an intense connection, this is a special connection. It feels like this is also this person's higher self providing you some reassurances. If you've encountered other soulmates in the past and you had your hopes were really high only to be let down, there may be a bit of pensiveness, a bit of guardedness. Some of you may even be triggered right now by that term soulmate. And so this is a sense of kind of like, this is a higher vibrational connection that brings with it its own series of blessings and challenges. But this is something that is not just meant to be looked at in an ordinary sense, and also an encouragement from this person's higher self to trust in that subtle awareness and that subtle knowing that you have of the connectivity between the two of you, while also factoring in this balance of what this person is showing you in the material world. We also have the calling. You are beckoned. So that is that confirmation that their higher self is reaching out to you. And it feels like there's something with this person's higher self choosing to do this, or being kind of not so much drawn towards you or magnetized towards you, but this is more of like an active energy, like a choice to kind of reach out, because it feels like this person is awakening to a different layer of potential in themselves that will allow them to connect with you more deeply in a healthier manner, something where you can like maximize the potential of what's possible in this connection between the two of you. And so this is something where it may require a little bit of sort of patience and understanding that you may be somebody who is very well versed in kind of how to connect with your higher self. You may be the more spiritual person out of the two of you. You know, these are kind of like familiar ideas, familiar terms. If you've had other soul connections, other soulmates, you know, this is like not your first time around the block as far as this is concerned. But with this person, this is almost like their 3D self being activated, you know, by you, kind of energetically, other senses or like a capacity to kind of experience or exchange with other people energetically is coming online. It's coming into a place where the physical self is able to sustain that kind of ladder of communion between the higher self and the mundane self. And so this is something that it's almost like the pulse of that, or the awakening of that, it's going to take a little bit of time. This is something where this is not a connection that is meant to be just sort of tumbled into. This person may be very kind of overwhelmed, not so much just by what they're feeling, but by certain things that are going on energetically. This person may be in the process of an awakening right now. And so if you're still having interactions with them, or maybe there's been a little bit of distance and silence, they've kind of pulled back a little bit, this is something where their higher self is letting you know to kind of like, don't just look at the immediate circumstance as all that there is to this. Yes, take that into accountability. Yes, hold this person accountable for showing up for you as you need them to, as you want them to, and as you know you're worthy of in a 3D sense. But also be aware that there is something in terms of like a bridge that is becoming recognized, or that is becoming more accessible to them between the higher realm and their material self, that is calibrated or comes into a place of being in a more pronounced way through their interactions with you, even in the distance, even in the silence, even as their higher self is reaching out to you and you're acknowledging that consciously. It's like you're giving that attention, and in some sort of way, it's providing some sort of like subtle or energetic confirmation for this person that it's okay for them to expand beyond how they've been used to moving through material life, to be able to expand beyond what they thought was their capacity for love and emotions, to be able to expand into this higher version of themselves that is able to reach up and touch that higher self, and to embody those kind of energies in a more consistent or deep manner in the 3D sense. So for some of you, this may even just be like turning out to be a karmic partner, not even necessarily, you know, like we hear karmic partner and most people cringe at that, like, oh, that's something bad or negative. But there can also be good karma, good karmic partners, where your purpose in one another's lives is important, but it is seasonal. So you may be somebody who is a key in this person's awakening, whether they choose to walk down a spiritual path, or it's just something where their perceptions of kind of themselves, or, you know, the world around them, or their interpersonal relationships with others, these are fundamentally changed through the experience with you, through interacting with you, even on a 3D level, based on your ability to kind of conceive of and have conversation with these more subtle or, you know, elevated aspects of yourself, that this is the takeaway for them. This may influence kind of ways in which they as a person grow and evolve in the decades of their life to come, in lifetimes to come. But for a lot of you, this is something where what you're experiencing at this point in time, it's almost like, instead of, you know, kind of a rough awakening where someone is shaken awake, it's almost like you're kissing this person awake, energetically speaking. It's a very gentle process, all things considered, compared to what it could be, or maybe what you've gone through in your own life, or with other previous, you know, soulmates, or other kinds of karmic partners, you know. And so this is something that it feels like their higher self is trying to make you aware, like you are having an impact on this person, and it feels like it's something that they're in a place within their life, or just within their own kind of spiritual awareness or cognizance, where they may not even have the words to articulate what's going on. They may not even be very consciously aware of that yet. It's kind of like things happening in that higher realm, where there's been that recognition from the higher self of, here's a soul contract with you, here's this soulmate, here's this person that I was destined to meet. And thus begins that process of awakening, that begins that process of blossoming from the inside, that then trickles out to how this person is able to show up for you, for this connection, and for their life in general, in a more authentic way, and in a more kind of alive way. We also have Song of Songs, express your love. So there's a sense here that if this person has a really hard time like speaking about their feelings, speaking about their emotions, or if you've just not entered into that territory yet, if you're like discussing feelings, this can be some encouragement to journal these things. Write this person letters, write this person poetry, keep it to yourself, keep it in a box somewhere, set intentions for this person as their higher self is reaching out to you. This is almost like this aspect of them saying, hey, the 3D version of me may be in the process of going through this awakening, or, coming into like a greater energetic or actual awareness as a person that could allow them to show up for you in a more fulfilling manner in terms of partnership, or just, as you relate to another person. If you're a conscious being, it's always a treat to relate to another conscious being. So that may be something that's happening right now. They're moving out of a state of unconsciousness into more of a conscious version of themselves. And so the higher self is kind of letting you know, just because, it may not be that you're at that place yet where things can fully be expressed, or this person's really comfortable with the intensity of the bond between the two of you, or they may kind of move with that at times. And then there's a certain level of connectivity that kind of causes them to freeze or recoil. This is something their higher self is encouraging you to, speak to them in that aspect through those higher realms, through meditations, through journaling, through kind of a very deliberate, energetic touching bases with this person, which it feels like, if this is resonating with you, you know that their higher self has come to you. You haven't sought them out, they have come to you. And so this is a good way for you to kind of honor the nature of that, as whatever is meant to unfold does so in the material realm. This can be something as well that as you acknowledge that, even kind of just silently within yourself, you keep that knowledge deeply within yourself. This sends a signal to this person of almost like, here is an axis of light. Here is a point of clarity. Here is a bridge between the ways in which I may feel very disconnected with myself and a place where I experience connectivity, where they're able to follow that light, almost through like the tunnel of this process of awakening, or coming into a greater degree of interaction with their higher self, or, maybe even just kind of more energetic aspects of themselves in tandem with whatever is sort of happening here between the two of you, or can happen in the future. And so you can really like hold the light for this person. You can hold the space while they're kind of moving through their process as the 3D self and the 5D self, or kind of the liminal realm self, come into more of a place of balance, where this person is able to be where they're at in kind of their journey, in their life in general, but that there's also this awareness of, it doesn't just have to be a flatline experience where I move through the years in a stagnated fashion, but I can move through the years of my life, or through the experiences with you, romantically speaking, with this understanding that expansion and growth is not a scary thing. It's okay to evolve. We also have love light recognition. Yeah, so there is a part within this person that recognizes you as holding a very unique frequency of light that is something that their soul has kind of required, or agreed, like with your soul, we were going to have this exchange with one another at this very predestined moment in time that isn't sort of like a date that's set in stone, but it's just kind of like other experiences that you each had, lessons, blessings, wreckage inside, the hope that remains, all of that, kind of the ratio of those things. Honor around that sort of window of time, there would be an opportunity for the two of you to connect. Now, what this evolves into, it involves each of your free will choices, each of your willingness to surrender and honor your own kind of reflexive, or, the decision to kind of resist in this situation. That will determine kind of the outcome of this circumstance. But the point is that you're holding some kind of light for this person that they are, as a soul, kind of reaching towards or acclimating towards. And there's something within them as well that has registered with you, that's created this alertness within you of like, hey, I feel this person's energy reaching for me. I feel like I'm being contacted by their higher self. I feel beyond whatever the nature of our experiences and interactions are in the material world, without me chasing or without me seeking and trying to find, I feel that there is activity between us beyond the nature of my capacity to understand, because it exists in the immaterial plane. And so there's something to be kind of like honored and recognized for that. For you, this might even just be something that can help you to kind of, it feels like move beyond a sense of like the idea of kind of soul connections or soulmates as being like a one and done. There's only one. It's a one size fits all, you know, and kind of pushing the idea of that away. Our soulmates can be family members, they can be friends, they can be romantic partners, they can be strangers that we encounter and interact with for even just a brief moment in time, just a second, just a conversation, and that's it. There are all different types of people that are kind of scripted into the possibilities or guarantees of who we are to encounter for various reasons in our lifetime. And so it feels like this is another person that is here to provide you a different sort of experience, or it's an opportunity for you to create a different sort of experience for yourself and for them outside of the way in which you might have, you know, handled or interacted with or experienced soul connections or soulmates in the past. Maybe when you were less evolved, you were less awakened, you know, or circumstances just played out in a way that maybe those, you know, weren't things that were meant to last forever. It was just kind of like lessons or circumstances where there still might be an opportunity to reconnect further down the road, or something that was just kind of a glimpse and it never became anything. And maybe in a future lifetime that will change. So it feels like this is something that is kind of here right now. This experience is here right now for you to honor and recognize there's some kind of co-creation between you and this person. You may be somebody who's a little more aligned with how to kind of like navigate that course between your intuition and your higher self, how your higher self communicates with you, or the ways in which you relate to kind of signs and synchronicities that the immaterial plane gives you, and the fact that there is a relationship happening or interactions occurring between the higher self of this other person you're having dealings with in the material world, that almost feels to be something that their signal is starting to come in a little clear. They're starting to align with that aspect of maybe embodying more of that higher self, consciously or, you know, materially speaking, or it's something where there's like a shift happening within them materially that brings them into more of that place where they're able to access those higher level frequencies. And so you're anchored in with this person at this window in time for a very particular reason, which it feels like, again, sort of the purpose of that or what it becomes is to be determined. But there's something within these energies to kind of provide you that conscious recognition that you're not just like imagining that it is happening. But again, to keep in mind that that higher self and the 3D self, there may still be a disconnect between that. This person, it feels like they're just starting to awaken. Even if they consider themselves to be an awakened person or they're a spiritual person, there's some other capacity within them that is kind of coming online, coming into a space of clarity, because they've met you, because they've interacted with you. What is happening in those higher realms between both your higher selves, and then also the ways that you can kind of shepherd that into a place of like anchoring that frequency, holding the light in your conscious 3D self while giving this person the opportunity to go through their process of growing pains, evolution, you know, kind of the ebb and flow of what that means as far as what they have to shed and what they have to kind of step into and embody as a more expanded consciousness, having a human experience. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.